Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and today is another episode of NBA Trade Machine. And this is a series in which I take a look at some NBA trade ideas that you guys send me either on Twitter or in the comments section of the previous Trade Machine video, and I just give my thoughts on them. Really quickly before we get started, I just want to give a huge shout out to you guys because as of recording this video, the last Trade Machine video has over 750 comments, and that's not even counting the mentions that I get daily on Twitter, the messages that I get on Instagram. Some of you guys are sending me emails with trade ideas, and the way that you guys are embracing this series just makes me so happy to know that you guys are enjoying it as much as I am, and I look forward to continue to doing it in the future. But with that said, let's just go ahead and jump into it, and we are going to begin with a trade from this guy. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce your first name so as not to insult you, but he says Kevin Love and J.R. Smith to the Trailblazers for C.J. McCollum, Myers Leonard, and Anthony Simmons. Now, the reason I picked this one is because there's some increasing chatter about the possibility of Kevin Love being traded from the Cavaliers. It's being reported more and more as he gets closer and closer to returning to the court from his injury issues earlier in the season, and I'm pretty sure that the Cavs are going to want to trade him relatively soon because he's getting older, so his value is going to decrease, as well as the fact that they're not going anywhere, and any kind of value they can get out of him would be a positive, especially considering that they just made the very strange decision this past offseason to re-sign him to a new big deal. And because of that big deal, you have to find a team that has another player that they can send in return to match those salaries, and that is the case with the Portland Trailblazers, in which they'll be sending C.J. McCollum. And the thinking here for the Trailblazers is just to break up the backcourt duo of C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard that they've been rolling with for a few years now, because McCollum has seemed to have kind of plateaued. He's not really getting any better, and he's at his best when he's kind of the focal point of the offense, and they're not doing that as much this year. Him and Lillard are on the floor a lot more together than they ever have been, and that's allowing Evan Turner to actually be the one running the second unit. So moving him to Cleveland in exchange for a front court player, a potential all-star player in Kevin Love. Well, like I said, for the Cavs, any kind of value they can get out of Love at this point would be helpful. They get a nice player in McCollum who's a little bit younger than Love and is on a shorter deal, so his money comes off much sooner than Love's does. They get out from under J.R. Smith's contract. Myers Leonard is basically just there for salary, but Anthony Simmons, or Simons, I believe it's Simons, could turn out to be a really good young player. He's an interesting prospect, a guy that went to high school and then took a post-grad year at IMG and never actually played in college, but he's got some talent. He's a good young wing/guard player and someone that provides them good value in exchange for a player in Kevin Love that really, in my opinion, should not be in their future plans. So I do like this trade. It provides good value on both sides. I would probably say yes if I'm on either side of this. I'd be a little bit more hesitant if I'm Portland, simply because breaking up that backcourt duo would mean a lot to that fan base, and I'm not sure how much more helpful Kevin Love is going to be than C.J. McCollum, but at this point, just trying new things would probably help them. Next up now is a trade from Aaron on Twitter, and this is something that I actually kind of started to think about myself after I made the last Trade Machine video and we talked about some trades for Nicola Vukovich. I got to thinking about a team in the Lakers that could use his scoring and benefits from the fact that he is a one-year contract. Obviously, the Lakers have big free agency plans this summer, so the fact that Vukovich is an expiring contract while also being a borderline all-star level player this year is extremely helpful for them. However, on the flip side of that, in the last Trade Machine video that I made, a lot of people were killing me and other people for saying that those trades were fair, or at least fair value for a player of Nicola Vukovich's caliber, at least the caliber of play that he's put forth this season. But you have to understand that this guy is an expiring contract that extremely limits his value if you're actually trying to get him as a player. Expiring contracts have value when they're just throwaway guys and you can get out from under the cap, but if they're the main reason that you're trading for them, then you also have to consider the expense of re-signing that player after this season, and that decreases their value, especially in Vukovic's case, because I think somebody is probably going to give him a lot of money. So whatever you can get out of him if you're the Orlando Magic is a positive. He should not be in your long-term plans. I understand that he's still relatively young, but him and Mo Bamba in the front court will not work. They will never work. And if you're committed to Mo Bamba at the center position, which I think you should be if you're the Magic, then trading Nicola Vukovich for any kind of relatively good value, whether it be draft picks, good players, whatever, should be a priority. So if you're a Magic fan and you look at this trade and you see that you're getting in exchange for Vukovich, a guy that's had a great season so far, in exchange for him, you're getting KCP, Isaac Bonga, and a late first-round pick, you might be screaming and saying that that's not a fair deal at all, but you have to understand the context. And in this scenario, if I'm the Magic, I would take it. I get a first. Isaac Bonga is a good tall guard that could end up being something. KCP is an expiring contract, and I move forward with Mo Bamba at the 5 spot because if I'm Orlando, I have little to no intention of bringing back Nicola Vukovich. And for the Lakers, I already kind of touched on why this would benefit them. Vukovich gives them a nice scoring presence inside, someone that can space the floor a little bit for them, which will definitely help, and doesn't jeopardize their long-term salary while basically only giving up a first-round pick. So I'd be willing to do this on both sides, but I understand any kind of reservations you might have on either side as well. Next up, Enzo brings us our weekly Washington Wizards trade, this time involving Bradley Beal. It seems like every week we talk about John Wall, Otto Porter, Bradley Beal in one of these, in one scenario in each of these videos, and we have another one here. Enzo says, Stanley Johnson, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, and the 2020 Pistons first and second round pick in exchange for Bradley Beal and Thomas Satoransky. The idea here, if you're the Pistons, is you're giving up some young players and a fairly good starting point guard, I guess, if you want to be kind to Reggie Jackson, in exchange for Bradley Beal, who helps obviously provide a little bit more star power, provides great scoring, and is the best player in the trade. And then you provide some picks as well to the Wizards to kind of sweeten the deal. It allows the Wizards to get out from under some salary cap. It allows them to get some picks and kind of start to rebuild. But the problem with this is, for one, Bradley Beal's been killing it ever since John Wall was officially shut down for the season. Bradley Beal's been playing great for them, so I don't really think they're going to be all that willing to give him up, and he's probably, in my opinion, last in line of those 3 guys in Washington to potentially be traded either at this trade deadline or anything moving forward, and none of the assets on the other side really excite me all that much. I'm not a big Reggie Jackson fan this season. He just hasn't proven to be a very good starting point guard for the Pistons in terms of winning them games, basically since the first 12 months that he was a Piston. Ever since then, he's struggled with injuries, and this year he just does not look good. Stanley Johnson has been very up and down basically since his rookie year. He started off a little bit strong, being a really good defender, and he doesn't really look all that comfortable on an NBA court, in my opinion. And Luke Kennard, although he can shoot, I'm not that excited about him either. Depending on the protections of the future picks, that could interest me if you think that the Pistons aren't going to be that good, but Bradley Beal is going to help them become good moving forward, so that kind of lessens the value of those as well. So if I'm Washington, this is a no. If somehow this gets offered to the Pistons, then I would certainly take it, but I don't see this one as all that realistic when you think about the fact that the Wizards probably aren't that inclined to trade Beal, and they're not really getting a ton for him, in my opinion. Next up, KT, who I think I might have actually featured in one of these videos before. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. But KT says Orlando gets Allen Crabbe and D'Angelo Russell, plus a first-round pick via Denver that the Nets have because Denver dumped Kenneth Faried's contract to the Nets this offseason in exchange for Aaron Gordon. And his reasoning is basically Orlando needs a point guard, and even though they're going to have to throw some money at D'Lo at the end of the year, it does help them at that position. Allen Crabbe is an expiring contract, and Brooklyn obviously gets a high upside wing / forward in Gordon. The first problem here is that Allen Crabbe isn't an expiring contract. He has a player option for next season for $18.5 million, and I would be shocked if he didn't accept it, so it's basically a 2-year contract. But the other problem I see here is D'Lo not being locked in long-term on a relatively good deal. I would be very afraid if I'm Orlando. Being a Nets fan myself, I'm not all that excited about D'Angelo Russell, and I really hope the team doesn't bring him back for anything over $10 to $12 million a year, and as a result, I don't expect us to bring him back next year. And if you're the Magic, I know they have a long-standing issue at the point guard spot, but trading someone as valuable for Aaron Gordon just to throw money at a guy that you probably have a good chance to sign this summer if you want to throw, $20 million plus a year at D'Lo, you can probably just sign him outright if you're the Magic, if that's something you want to do. So even though you do get the pick and you get, I guess, first opportunity to sign D'Lo, I wouldn't give up a guy like Aaron Gordon to do so. If I'm the Nets, I would absolutely do this. Like I said, Allen Crabbe is not necessarily an expiring deal. I'm not that excited about D'Lo. I just don't see it. There's too many games where the Nets are better at the end of games without him on the floor. We're better with Spencer Dinwiddie on the floor. And there's just too many games when he looks disinterested. And I'm not really interested in him being anything more than a sixth man on a good NBA team for me personally. So 10 to 12 million is kind of my ceiling for re-signing him. And if I'm the Nets, I would absolutely take this. Magic, not so much. Second to last now, another Kevin Love trade. This comes from FaZe Dodo. He says the Cavs receive Eric Gordon, Marquise Chris, a 2019 first-round pick, which is top 15 protected, I'm assuming from the Rockets, in exchange for Kevin Love and a 2020 second-round pick. Because even with everything going on and all the craziness around James Harden kind of surging into the top spot in the MVP conversation, they still need some help. And even when Chris Paul comes back, if they're thinking about competing at the top of the Western Conference, they're going to need more star power, which was why they pursued Jimmy Butler trade so aggressively, and which is why I think this is somewhat of a realistic possibility. Again, if you're the Cavs, at least if I'm in charge or if I have a voice, I'm completely fine with only getting this for Kevin Love. You get out from under his deal completely. Gordon is gone, Chris is gone after this season. If you want to re-sign them, you can. I'm not especially interested in that with where the Cavs are just in their rebuilding process, but you get a pick for him, you get out from under his deal, which is huge, and the Rockets obviously get someone that's going to help them space the floor, which is, Kevin Love might shoot 8, 9, 10 threes a game in Houston, provides them just a little bit of a change of pace offensively. If they ever did want to try and punish people inside, punish teams for going small inside, they could put Kevin Love in the post and have him do some work. I know that's not really what Mike D'Antoni likes to do, but he just provides a little bit more diversity for them offensively and not have to rely so much on backcourt play. A little bit of a playmaker from the elbows and things like that. But I think Kevin Love would be a really interesting fit in Houston so long as he stays healthy. They'd have to kind of work around his defensive limitations just like the Cavs have and have had to. But I like this. The only thing I would say is the Cavs probably could get more than this for Kevin Love, but if this is kind of the only thing thrown out there, I would not get past the trade deadline with Kevin Love still on my roster if I'm the Cavs, because even though he's out with an injury right now and he's kind of coming back from that, with his age and with his contract, this is the most value, in my opinion, that Kevin Love is going to have moving forward, and we're getting very, very close to a Carmelo Anthony kind of situation in terms of degrading skill set and getting up there in age with a bad contract to where his value would not be very high at all. So if I am the Cavs, again, if there was a better offer on the table, obviously I would take it, but if I don't get anything else, I would absolutely take this, even though it doesn't really seem like that much of a return. And last up now, I left the most complicated one for last year for the end. This was sent to me by Kevin via email, and it's a first ever in this series. It is a 4-team trade, and the Knicks would receive Zach Randolph, the Kings would receive Otto Porter, the Rockets would receive Courtney Lee, and the Wizards would get Brandon Knight and Iman Shumpert. So I'm going to go through this really quickly in terms of the benefits that I see for each team. If you're the Knicks, you're getting rid of an extra year of Courtney Lee's contract in exchange for an expiring contract for Zach Randolph. If you're the Kings, you're getting Otto Porter, which helps fill some of that void on the wing that they definitely have. And even though he obviously takes up salary cap space for them, he's still young. It's not a great contract, but it fills a position of need, and you're not really all that convinced that you're going to be able to sign a big name free agent with that cap space this summer anyway, so that helps them. And really all they have to do is give up 2 expiring contracts, being Shumpert and Randolph. The Rockets get a wing in Courtney Lee that they definitely need, a guy that can shoot, can still defend a little bit, but just provides them good depth in exchange for someone in Brandon Knight that doesn't look like an NBA player when he's on the floor. He does not look good at all. He's an expiring contract, which would be sent to the Wizards, and they get Iman Shumpert and Brandon Knight. Those are both expiring contracts, and they get out from Otto Porter's deal, which helps them. There could obviously be picks exchanged in this, but even though it's as complicated as it is, I love it. I think it helps a lot of teams. I think there's a reason for every team to be in this trade, which is kind of an issue once you get to 3 and 4 team deals. You kind of have to find a reason for everybody to say yes to this, and there's benefit to this for everyone. The only thing that I would question is whether or not the Kings would want to take on Otto Porter's contract, even though he does fit exactly what they need. If you're looking at it from a little bit more long-term perspective, maybe that's not a great move for them to start filling up cap space already, but in my opinion, this is a really cool deal. I like it. And yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's NBA Trade Machine episode. Once again, just like always, if you have your own trade ideas, leave them down in the comment section below. You can email them to me. You can send them to me on Twitter or on Instagram, but the best way to do it would be in the comments of this video. Like I said, the last one was nuts. There was like 750 comments or something. If we could get even more than that on this one, that would be awesome. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.